Okay, welcome to class, everyone. It's almost the end. It's one of the last classes that we have this term, but nevertheless, we have a great guest speaker again today, and welcome everyone that's joining us online on the stream. We have with us today Janus. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Hopefully.
And confusing, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, but Janus works as well.
Okay, Janus works. Perfect. So Janus is a senior experience designer at Electronic Arts and also the founder of Liftyz. You can pronounce that correctly as well. And so that means EA, you might know, is a big video game company. And she leads the design efforts for EA Connect, which is a social tool for EA's portfolio of games, which is pretty big, 8 million around the world. And she also provides career training and coaching services to assist designers in landing their next jobs and leveling up the design careers. So, which is part of what she's talking to us about today, which is how to prepare for UX design job interviews. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Janus.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today. So it's a pleasure to meet both the students from the University of Waterloo. My best friend actually graduated from University of Waterloo, so that's great. And also I want to say hello for those joining us today from the internet. So before we dive into how to prepare for UX design job interviews, I just want to quickly share my design journey being a product designer. So, over the past 6 years, I have the opportunity to build B2B and B2C digital products at different companies. My journey has taken me from startups to agencies, from e commerce solutions to gaming companies, where I had the privilege of working with incredible people. And together, we have created products that reaches thousands to millions of users. So, in my current role at EA, my team is developing EA Connect, which is the one on the left, as you can see here. It's a little bit small, I know. So, this in-game social tool currently supports multiple platforms for EA portfolio of games, which includes titles like FC or FIFA, Madden, and NHL, and so on. So, as much as I love working at EA, I'm also passionate about my side gig, being a product design instructor. So, over the past 2 years, I have been teaching product design as a and through social media. And I believe some of my students are here today watching LinkedIn Live. Thank you so much for Dr. Nakit for sharing this lecture beyond the traditional classroom setting. So just a heads up, my views are strictly on my own, and I do not represent EA. I'm here just to share the things that I have learned in the past few years of being a product designer and also an interviewer. And hopefully you will be able to take away a thing or two from this presentation. So when Dr. Naka suggested that I could give a guest lecture on preparing for UX design job interviews, I looked at this message and my immediate thought was like, okay, it is a good topic. But here's the thing. UX design job interviews are complicated and very tough. So how am I supposed to cover this topic in 1 hour, including a 15-minute Q&A section? I could even write a book on how to tackle UX design job interviews, like honestly. But I thought, why not give it a try? So challenge accepted. So let me walk you through a real interview timeline so you will understand why I said that. So a while back ago, I interviewed with a tech company for a senior product designer position. The process started with a job application, followed by a phone screen and a portfolio presentation and a team wipeout challenge where I partnered with 3 other designers and then a cultural fit interview. Can you guess how long it took me to get through this process and finally receive a job offer? You can actually go ahead and type your guesses in the chat box below if you're watching LinkedIn live. Let me see. Um, right. Okay.
Janus, just a quick question. If you could maybe speak up a little bit because it is pretty quiet on our end, or maybe
Okay,
move the
sure.
microphone a little
Here,
closer.
let me see. Perhaps I can fix it over here. Is it better right now?
It's a bit better, yeah? Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Yes. So yeah, so it took me 3 months to complete the entire process. And it is pretty standard, especially for big company. And the truth is, it is not just for a senior designer position. So now let's take a look at one of my design students' timeline for an internship interview at a big tech company. So let's make another guess. How long do you think it took this designer to navigate through this 4 stages? You can enter your guesses in the chat box below. All right, yes. So yeah, I would say that for this one is actually for months. And unfortunately, this designer received a rejection email and he actually cried when we talked over the phone. But you know what? The same designer later received an offer for another internship at another great company. So rejections aren't the end of the world, it is just like redirection. So, in today's lecture, I would try my best to provide a comprehensive view on how to navigate the most common types of design interviews from both the interviewers and interviewees' perspective. I will be also sharing some real interview questions to assist you in preparing for your upcoming UX design interviews. Finger crossed. So companies might have like different hiring and interview structures, but there are some things in common. So after the initial resume and portfolio screening, the hiring team will talk to candidates and to arrange a phone screening call. It can typically last between like 10 to 20 minutes. And the goal of this core is to evaluate is there is a basic match between you and the hiring company. They will provide more detailed information about the position, and they will try to understand your current employment status, past experience, and what you, as a candidate, are seeking in this position. So, some common questions that might be asked during this call include why asked? Why are you interested in this position? And what are your next position? Why do you join and leave your last position, and what is your legal status? Do you need our company's assistance with your working visa or sponsorship? What are your preferences regarding remote or on-site work, and what is the notice period you would require if you were hired? So yeah, they're going to ask you a bunch of these questions in this phone screening interview. So how to prepare a phone screening interview? So, to be successful in a phone screen interview, you should do your homework ahead of time. You need to prepare your pitch and be able to tell a compelling story, kind of demonstrating the value so that you can advance to the next stage of the interview. So, in fact, there are a couple of things that you can prepare ahead of time. First, your self introduction. So, your self introduction should be short and sweet. In your self introduction, you can share and briefly describe your current situation, your past job experience, and it should be like a conversation starter and not like a 2 minute TED talk. If I were interviewing for a design lead position today, this is how I would introduce myself. So my name is Janus. I'm a senior product designer at Electronic Arts. We are working on a social tool in EA games that help connect 8 millions of cross-platform players. I'm leading multiple game integration projects and new feature discovery projects for all game platforms. So prior to EA, I worked at Moto Insight. I was the design lead for Moto Insight browsing experience team for their e-commerce solutions for car manufacturers. I spend most of my time optimizing users' browsing experience, leveraging data and research insight. And before that, I spent a couple years working at marketing and design agencies as a UX designer. I got to work with McKinsey, BNY Mellon, and other great accounts for a couple of web and mobile app projects. Is there anything you want me to dive deeper into? I always love to end my self introduction with an open ended question. Is there anything you want me to dive deeper into? as I treated it as a conversation between me and the recruiter. It shows that I'm confident and I also respect the time instead of like giving like a 10-minute TED talk, right? And besides your self introduction, it is crucial to research the company. You can take a look at what information you already have known about the company, the role, and the person you will be speaking with. If you have time, you need to study the products and even try using them as possible. It helps you understand the product, the target market that they are serving, and it gives you insight into the design and product maturity. And before the call, you should have your list of questions that based on anticipated questions and your list of questions. And honestly, in most cases, recruiters ask the same types of questions, like the questions that I listed in the previous slide. And if they ask you about your salary expectations in phone screening intervals, you should try your best to delay this conversation. As the first rule of salary negotiation is that you should never discuss money until the employer indicates they want to offer you a job. So this is the very important rule that you need to follow if you want to negotiate for a higher salary at the end of the interview process. So the next step is of the hiring process is an interview with the hiring manager. So this step involves a dive deep into your design process, tools, and dynamics with teams you had to work with. So usually this interview also includes behavioral questions such as, tell me about a time when you disagreed with a team member. So this question actually got asked in an interview attended by one of my students a while back, and yeah, luckily he got to use the framework that we talked, so he nailed it. So the hiring manager might also ask some technical or design related questions, such as what is your design process, what is your proudest design project, and what tools do you use at work. So to prepare for behavioral questions, there are a few steps. So first, you should learn the star answer method, which is the most common framework that you can use. Uh, there are a couple of frameworks that you can use to answer this type of questions. The star is the most simplest one that you can use, and it's easy to grasp. Second, you will need to prepare your questions to some commonly asked question. Just like I said, when you go to job interviews, they always ask the same set of questions. So you better, just have a list of answers prepared ahead of time. And because it is a behavioral interviews, they want to know your past experience. So you should always have a good habit, just to documenting all your past experiences in a brush-sheet. I always encourage designers to have like a brush-sheet. You can list your projects that you have done in the past, the achievements, the important metrics, and even, the compliment messages from your design manager and from your coworkers. So these will help you to prepare for your behavioral intervals, for your performance review, and it even going to help you to craft your resume. The description on your resumes. So, what is a star strategy? So, a star strategy is the most effective and the easiest way to structure your answer for behavioral questions. Other than that, there are other ways to handle behavioral questions. For example, the PAR method, the PAR method. So P stands for project, A stands for action, L stands for results. And there's another framework, it is called Circle, which is a problem solving framework, which is more advanced. And I highly recommend to use that framework if you are a senior designer. However, today, let's just cover the basic, the STAR method. It is very straightforward, and you can use it to tell a story by laying out the situation, task, action, and results. And the next natural step is to start preparing your answers for, to answer this behavioral questions. Like I mentioned, you need to have a list of answers and a list of questions. It will help you to be to sound like more confident in your interviews. You can write down some bullet points to each question and practice verbalizing them so that your answers will come out more naturally. So up next, you can also prepare some experiences that showcase your fit with the company's culture and core values. Most of the big companies, they actually list out the company's values and cultures on their websites. So for example, Amazon has 16 design leadership principles that include assessing with customers and having ownership for your work and so on. So if you're going to have an interview with these companies, I highly encourage you to check out the company's culture and core value before going into the interview, so you kind of get a grasp on what type of talents they're looking for. And in fact, many top tech companies, they use their company's values to evaluate candidates in behavioral interviews. It is important for you to do your research and make sure you have prepared relevant experiences to showcase your fit with those values. So next up in the hiring process is portfolio presentation, which typically lasts about like 30 to 60 minutes, and it is very common for individual contributor design positions. So this presentation allows you to showcase your thought process in solving design problems and demonstrate your communication skills. Portfolio presentation can be combined with the previous steps, the hiring manager interview. And sometimes candidates are asked to present their work to the design or product lead or to a broader team of like 3 to 5 people. Like, you got to meet a UX researcher, product managers, BAs, and engineers, and so on. So during this presentation, you are expected to walk the audience through your projects, explaining the objectives, your contributions, and the decisions that you made, and the reasons behind each decision that you have made in this design process. And in most of the case, you will be asked to present 1 or 2 case studies. So the portfolio presentation is different from your online website portfolio. You are usually asked to present 1 to 3 best projects, and you need to go in depth on how you have achieved and existed objectives given the constraints. As an interviewer, um, and having asked many of my design manager friends, we actually love to see some behind the scenes work. This includes your rough sketches, your design and developer handoff documents, and the compliments or feedback that you have gathered from your users and coworkers. So these elements will help your interviewer to visualize, what it's like to work with you as a designer. And in terms of the presentation that format, you should use Keynote, PowerPoint, Google Slides, or Figma. So these two are perfect for online and in-person presentation. And if you decide to use Figma to build your presentation deck, be sure to present it in a prototype mode and hide all the Figma prototype UI to avoid any distractions. So how to select case studies for presentation? Choosing which project to walk through can be highly subjective, and it also depends on the role that you're applying for. I always encourage designers to present their best work and try to show a variety of skills. Ideally, this project should be complicated and includes, key product design skills like user research, interaction design, and visual design skills, like the end-to-end design process. And it would be nice if you could briefly touch on the design systems perspective as well, and also accessibility design. Many companies, they actually look for designers with experience using design system or even contributing to a design system when they hire a junior or intermediate designer position. So here are some questions to ask yourself as you decide what to show in this case study presentation. So which of your projects are you most proud of and would like to do more of? Which of your projects are in familiar spaces to the role that you're applying for? Which of your projects will well as a project has an impact that aligns with its goals? So, in a nutshell, we prefer seeing real world projects over conceptual ones. And the complex projects, for example, like B2B products, large scale products, over simpler projects, such as landing pages and marketing websites. So, now let's move on to the take home design
Janus,
challenge. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
just a couple of people are still saying it's still a little bit too quiet. I don't know if there's anything you can do on your side to maybe even make it a little bit louder.
Okay. Yeah, I'm at my loudest voice right
Yeah,
now. Just let me see. Would
I
that be
think it is
better?
getting better. Yeah, it is better
Yeah.
now.
And just let me double check my voice. Okay, cool. Sounds good. I'm sorry about that. Hope that you can
It's,
hear it clearly.
it's all good now.
uh,
Thank you.
yeah, okay. Sounds good. Fantastic. All right, so the next is take home and whiteboard design challenge. So take home design challenge just provide you with the opportunity to allocate more time to the end-to-end design process and delve into tackling a complex problem or scenario that might not be feasible to complete during a shorter interval. It allows you to showcase your design skills and demonstrate your design thinking and problem-solving abilities. However, it is important to be cautious because some startups they have been known to use this as an opportunity to get free work from designers. If the design challenges is highly related to the products or the company, and if they ask for a significant amount of work, including design files, you should be very careful about it. Make sure that it is a legitimate part of the hiring process. You should always be mindful of protecting your time and expertise as a designer. And in a whiteboard design challenge, we aim to see how you approach the problem under pressure. Therefore, if your final sketches are untidy, that's fine because UI is not the primary focus of whiteboard design challenges. So, no design challenge that you run into, hiring managers want to understand what your process is and they want to evaluate your strengths and opportunity lies. So, first, your design process. They want to know how you approach and solve ambiguous problems. Second, your critical design thinking skills. Can you ask good questions related to the problem? Can you gather relevant information and think through solutions and conclusions? I noticed that many new designers, when they started to do whiteboard design challenge, they just keep it silent. They just, silent and they just keep on working and they do not interact with interviewers. I highly encourage you to interact with your interviewers if possible, unless they want to step back and enjoy the show. Otherwise, I highly encourage you to talk to interviewers during the process and try to involve them and ask questions. And it's a good practice and it shows that you're very collaborative and you really want to get that involved in this designed exercise. Third, your visual design skills, your craft. Do you have a strong visual design skills? Can you deliver your work in a short amount of time? I would say that it is only apply if it is a take-home design challenge, because if you are doing a whiteboard design challenge, you actually don't have the time to work on high fidelity design skills. And honestly, the hiring managers or any interviewers from the panel, they can get to know your visual design skill by going through your portfolio and in the portfolio presentation deck. And next, your creativity. Are you a creative person? Can you come up with unique solutions quickly? And also, you need to learn how to prioritize different solutions. Sometimes we can come up like 10 different solutions, but as a designer, we also need to learn how to prioritize them based on a couple perspectives. For example, the business goals, financial goals, and the UX goals, and also like other different things. So I would say that it is always a great idea to use a prioritization metrics in this whiteboard design challenge to show that you can prioritize and pick the best solution for the team after considering all these factors that I just mentioned. And last but not least, your presentation and communication skills. as you will be presenting your design solutions to the hiring manager and the interview panel. So they're going to evaluate your presentation and communication skills. Unlike case studies presentation, uh, you're not going to have time to prepare honestly. So you need to just present your idea like on spot. So it really, tests your presentation and communication skills. Communication skills is definitely a key in product design. I would say that this is the most important soft skill for product designers because designers they must convey product ideas. They need to convince stakeholders to use their design solutions, and they will also need to communicate with developers and product managers and try to gather all the design requirements for the product. And they also need to explain their thinking behind designs and to try to share their word often. I would say that during my early days of being a entry level designers, I got to present every single day. So that's the reality of being a product designer, especially if you decide to work at an agency, a consultancy, because in those settings, it means that it is a client facing role. You got to talk to your clients like every single day. So yeah, this is just give you a heads up and just want to share what you can expect of being a product designer at agencies and consultancies. And even if you work in an in-house design team, you also need to present very often because this is the way that we shared our work and try to gather feedback from our teammates. All right, let's move on then. App critique. So, as a part of the skills evaluation process, you might be asked to criticize a design of a specific product. This could involve providing feedback on what works and what doesn't, and how it could be improved, and why the company implemented certain features. So, this exercise allows interviewers to evaluate your product thinking, user experience, visual and interaction design skills, and also the communication skills. And also, they want to know whether you are good at giving feedback. So it is an opportunity for you to shine and showcase your expertise and to demonstrate your analytical and skills in assessing design choices. So during the app critique, you need to review the app from multiple perspectives, including usability, business goals, accessibility, visual design, brand voice, and other stuff. So, to provide a holistic review of the app, you will need to have a very solid understanding of user experience. And unfortunately, I don't think I have time to delve into app critique framework this time. But yeah, I would say that app critique is a great exercise, even though it is not a part of the interview process. I encourage you to practice app critique with your friends and to see and try to evaluate an app from a product designer's perspective. And next, one-on-one interviews with a team member. So one-on-one interviews with team members offer you a great opportunity to meet everyone on the product team, and you can gain insight into the team culture. So during these interviews, your potential coworkers will aim to understand your background, your working style, while you can also learn about their perspective and experiences. It is a good opportunity for you to establish relationships and get a sense of the dynamics within the team. So make sure to come prepared with thoughtful questions and try to engage in the conversations to showcase you have good interpersonal skills and you a good fit with the team. So I have seen some designers, when they first started out, they joined this one-on-one interviews and they don't really have any questions for the interviewers. And this is a big no. You should always be curious and ask a lot of questions. And you should treat it as a conversation instead of like a typical interview. So they ask you a question, you just answer. That's not like that. You need to treat it as a conversation and to show that you're very curious about the product, the team, and you want to work with that person. So this is how you can win their heart and one-on-one interviews. So cultural fit intervals. Hiring managers asked cultural fit intervals question as a part of the interview process to determine alignment between candidates and company cultures. And in these responses, usually you're going to reveal insights about your preferred working styles, ideal work environment, and your personal beliefs and values. So, some common questions are like describing the environment in which you work best, and how would you describe your ideal manager, and what is your preferred way of interacting with your coworkers, and what motivates you to perform at your best. So you will need to be prepared to thoughtfully address these types of questions, as they can provide valuable insights into how you might fit within the company's culture and work environment. And you should consider aligning your responses with the values and the cultures of companies to demonstrate your suitability for this position. And honestly, if you feel like this company's culture is toxic, and it is also the time to get to know them as well, is a two-way street. And then if you feel like that they're not a good fit for you, it is okay to quit the interview process, honestly. So yeah, I would say that there's a good chance for you to get to know the company, and also to show that you're a good fit for the company. And the next thing is logic tests. While it is not commonly used in interview processes, but some companies they will actually require candidates to complete a logic test. So personally, I have done two logic tests as a part of the interview processes in the past. One is with a unicorn company, and the other one is with one of the big consultancies, McKinsey's, PwC, those kind of consultancies. So, a logical reasoning test typically evaluates a candidate's ability to use their logical thinking and reasoning skills to identify patterns or sequences in a series of images, symbols, or data. Basically, it's like IQ tests, and this test assesses your ability to think critically and logically, and it will provide insights into your problem-solving skills and analytical abilities. So the UX design job process is tough, and I know. In this lecture, I covered a lot of different types of interviews. I know that UX design job interviews is tough, especially in the current job market. It makes it so much harder and harder. You really need to be very sharp, and you need to have like a very well polished case study presentation deck. But the good news is that you can practice and learn the interview skills. Practice doesn't make perfect, but practice definitely makes progress. My first interview sucked. I was frozen and I had no idea what I was doing. You can also see that it is a learning experience, and just keep iterating your portfolio deck, and the way that you structure your answers. And you can actually ask for feedback in interviews. This is the thing that I always love to do. And whenever there is an interviewee coming to my interviews, I always try my best to provide them feedback, because I want them to succeed in their upcoming product designer roles. And interview skills is definitely something that we can learn. And especially in interviews, you got to show that you're a good presenter, you're a good communicator, and these skills also benefit for designers in a typical workspace scenario. So just keep pushing forward and stay curious, and remember that every interview, whether it ends with acceptance or rejection, it is a step towards your ultimate goal. So, and you're not alone in this journey. So at Lifty, we host a plenty of free events, as we always want to give back to the community. So you can follow us on Instagram and check our websites for like the latest events. So for example, the Presenting Like a Pro is a free event, and it will be hosted by Christina, who is amazing senior product designer and career coach at Lifty. And last but not least, let's stay in touch. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I'm happy to answer your questions and to connect with you. And best of luck. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for all that information. There's a lot to parse in there. I will actually, I should move the camera back to me. I will now check if we have any questions in the audience. We do. And back goes the camera. So I do want to let you ask those questions. You might have to speak up a little bit. But yeah, let's start with Evan. Yeah.
Before we can get an interview, right, we need a well-organized portfolio. And I wonder how can we better prepare for our portfolio? Like where to start?
Yeah, how can we better prepare for our portfolio? Where do we start? That's the question.
You mean the portfolio for the portfolio website or the portfolio presentation? Which one were you referring to?
The website. Yeah, the website. Yeah.
Okay, so the website. Yeah. So I would say that together, case studies, there are a couple ways that you can create case studies. The first one, I don't know if your course include that, in some university courses, they actually ask designers or students to work on some conceptual design projects. That could be one source of it. The other way is that you can actually join some nonprofit programs. You can be volunteers for nonprofits and to create, additional case studies. By working with them. Other than that, you can also join hackathons. Hackathons is a great way for you to practice design skills and to collaborate with other designers and even developers. And there's one hackathon that I would love to join is game jams. You can totally check out game jams, especially if you want to work in a gaming industry. So game jams would be a great way for you to connect and also to create case studies for portfolios. So yeah, other than that, I would suggest you to be like a freelancer or maybe a contractor for like companies, and this will help you to enrich your experience and to create that real world projects for your portfolios. Yeah, hope that
Yeah,
helps.
thank you. The game jam, we actually do have a game. If you want, I can give you some more information. We have a game jam locally here at the University of Waterloo that you can participate in. The global game jam is usually in January, and that is with everyone that's participating, and we are participating as a campus. And if you're interested, I can send you the information for that. Games Institute is actually hosting some of that. Yeah. Cool. You had a question too?
Yeah. So you said with the hiring manager that you would prepare answers to commonly asked questions. I'm sorry if you already mentioned that, but what are some of the commonly asked questions?
What are the commonly asked questions that the hiring manager would ask the interviewee?
Yeah,
okay.
That you're supposed to prepare for.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think they're going to ask you a couple common questions. The first one, they want to know your design process. This is the most commonly asked interview questions, honestly. What is your design process? Can you explain that to me? We do have like a standard answer, honestly. It's not the double diamond process, to be honest with you. You actually need to cater your design process for each project. So you need to figure out the problems first, and then to figure out what's the best approach to solve the problem. So other than design process, they're going to ask you. They want to know your working relationships with your coworkers or with your teammates. They're going to ask you your role in a particular design project, and they want to understand how you approach and how you would handle relationships with developers and product managers and so on. So second part is relationship. The third part is that they want to understand your design skills. So, there are a couple areas that they're going to ask, for example, the interaction skills, interaction design skills, design systems, accessibility, and also user research, if that role is user research focused. Otherwise, I would say that the focus is going to be interaction design, problem solving, visual design, accessibility, and design system, and so on. A lot of things that they can ask, honestly. And last but not least, because they want to hire a proactive person to join their team. So that's why they're going to ask you, how would you keep updated with the latest industry trends? So this is also one of the most commonly asked questions. So yeah, just be prepared, and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions, try to evaluate your skills, design skills, interpersonal skills, and problem solving skills. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Did we have any more questions in the audience? I have lots of questions online as well that I will go to. Okay, so hold on, I'll move this back over. Yes, so we do have a couple of questions online from the audience there. And one of the first questions that came in, if the role says UX designer, but has an emphasis on visual design, then does that mean your case study should also focus more on the visual design aspects, like how the style guide was made or something like that? What would you
Yeah,
say?
I think that's a good approach. Yeah, that's a very good approach and very smart. And in fact, since you're going to have multiple rounds of interviews, and usually product design portfolio presentation is the third or the second interview. So I would encourage you to ask a bunch of questions in your first interview with the hiring manager. Recruiters might not be able to answer you that question honestly, but I encourage you to ask about what qualities or what skills that the hiring look for in the hiring manager interview. So by knowing that, by knowing the requirements and informations about this position, it helps you to custom make your portfolio presentation deck for portfolio presentation interview. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I do think along those lines is also, would you include student projects in case studies? I think you kind of already answered that, right? So if it's good, I guess you would probably, but yeah, I'll let you answer it.
I would say that student projects are great, especially if you're interviewing for like an internship position or entry level position. So we would love to see that honestly. Academic projects. I used academic projects to land my first UX designer job back in many years ago. I'm not gonna say that.
Perfect.
But yeah, I
Okay.
still remember my first app. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, time flies.
Okay, let's see what else we got here. Another question that was, what is your go-to question at the end of the interview where they ask, do you have any questions for me to gauge the company or to make a lasting impact for the interviewer?
That's a very good question. And I do have a go-to question for that.
All right.
My favorite question is based on our conversations so far, is there anything that you think that is is does not really feel does not meet your standards, or is there anything that you want me to address to make you feel like I'm the perfect candidate for this position before we end this interview? That's my favorite question, but that's not the best way to frame it. I just came on top of my head right now. So yeah, but something like this, yeah, just to try to get a sense of, do they like your presentation, do they like your vibe, and is there anything that I want to address before we end this interview? Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah. In the context of using the STAR method for interview responses, there may be situations where the result of my actions wasn't necessarily positive or successful. In such cases, should I still use those examples in the interview? How should I discuss these results to demonstrate my skills or my learning, or do employers care about learning at all?
Yeah, I think employers cared about learning. So after using the STAR method, if the results were not positive or successful, I would suggest you to talk about the next steps or the key learnings that you learned from that experience. So what would you do differently next time if you encountered the same scenario? That would be a great approach to frame it more in a positive way.
Okay.
Mm.
That sounds good. There's another one in there. How should our portfolio presentation be different from our online portfolios? I guess that's asking along the lines of the first question. What's the big difference between online portfolio and portfolio presentation? I didn't understand the difference very well. What is the distinction for them?
That's a very good question. So for a portfolio presentation, is very in depth comparing to online portfolios. Let's say it this way. So for online portfolios, it's basically like your marketing brochure. You don't want to present all the details. No one cares, honestly. No one cares every single pixels. We just want to understand your range of skills, and we want to see that, oh, if this person is a good fit in a nutshell. honestly, I have installed Hotjar on my portfolio a while back ago. Recruiters and hiring managers only spend 3 minutes on my portfolio website. So you need to keep it brief and short. I always encourage designer to keep the case studies less than 1,000 words because of this. Because typically people only spend 3 minutes on your portfolio, so you got to make it short and sweet. And you can encourage hiring managers and recruiters, if they want to learn more about the project, they should schedule an interview with you so you can kind of walk them through the entire design process. So your portfolio presentation that should be very detailed. You need to explain every single steps. You need to show the crazy mockups, honestly, and also the ups and downs, and how you navigate this design process and so on. So it's so different, two different approaches.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Oh, you had a follow-up for that?
Does that mean we don't need to put any like very detailed description of our project on the online portfolio?
Does that mean that we don't need to have a description on our online portfolio? I wouldn't say so, but let's see what
I
you
wouldn't
think.
say that. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. It's just like a brief version of it. Yeah, and be sure to highlight your impacts and your contributions, numbers.
Yeah,
We
I
love to
think
see numbers. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think impact is really the most the main idea is really just somebody's going to scan this. They want to find the big nugget really quickly, and that would be the impact, right? And so I think, yeah, really focus on that.
Like bigger images or bigger or fancy stuff on it, and don't need to be like very detailed. But
Yeah, I think if you have the choice, but please feel free to chime in. If you have the choice, I think bigger images are probably better as long as the image explains what you did, right? And it's not so much about the text and having more text content. What do you think?
Yeah, I agreed with that. You still need to describe the project in your portfolio, your responsibility, your impact, the rough design process, and try to not include a double diamond diagram in your portfolio. It sounds very junior. Yeah, and yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So we have another question here. When working on large UX and software engineering projects during my BSc, I often collaborated with some big names in the industry. Naturally, their contribution tended to overshadow mine. In such cases, when preparing a portfolio for an internship or a job application, how can one effectively highlight their individual contributions to ensure that they don't remain in the shadows here?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question as well. So, if you are an intern or you are like a junior designer in those projects, you can also share your contributions. I would say, for example, you help them to clean out the design files. You help to create design documentations. This is a great impact, honestly. And it also depends on the role that you're applying to. So, for example, let's say you have this internship projects and you're applying to like a entry level design position. I mean, having these experience are great because this is kind of aligned to what we expect for entry level designers. So I would say that just call them out. And even though those contributions might not be very great, or but you still joined as a part of the team, and you also help the team to push things forwards. Just be proud of your contributions, even though that the contributions is small and tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Really just highlighting what it is that stands out there. In job interviews, hiring managers often emphasize the importance of cultural fit, and it's understandable that companies would prefer candidates who align well with their existing culture. However, could this emphasis on cultural fit inadvertently lead to a lack of diversity within the organization? What is your opinion about this? I guess that's the whole idea about echo chambers, right? So what if you only hire within your culture? Do you still have the diversity necessary?
It is a tough question. I don't think I'm the right place to answer this question, honestly. It's a company's level question, right? I'm not like a management position, and it's really hard to say that. Yeah, I don't really have like a good answer for this question. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think it is a really good question, but it is more of a strategic nature, right? Like thinking about who do we want to be as a company? Like, is it intentional that we want to disrupt some of our processes, or do we want to keep things running smoother? I think it also depends on what stage you're in, right? Like in some startups, culture is everything, and everyone needs to mesh with that culture to get stuff done really quickly. Where in larger companies, there might be more a tendency more to have a team that is more risk-taking team, or we try out something in that team, right? And then it doesn't affect the company overall. But of course, the larger the company, as you know, EA is a giant company, the harder it is to push for those changes on an individual level. So you need to have some management buy-in somewhere for this to actually happen. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Then we do have, given that performance on logic tests, I must tell you, like when you showed those logic tests, I was also thinking, wow, that's really interesting. It's been a while since I've seen something like that in a job interview. But given that the performance on those logic tests can be influenced by various factors outside a candidate's control, such as stress or test anxiety, how does the company ensure that the use of these tests in the hiring process doesn't unfairly disadvantage otherwise qualified candidates? Do you think those are ethical? Logic tests.
Logic tests. To be honest with you, I hate it. But this is just like something that I noticed when I was being a candidate, and when I was helping my students to get jobs in the market. Companies are doing this is crazy, and I just couldn't believe that. But yeah, I don't like it. If I was, a VP of design, I would probably, ban all this logic text and even take home design challenges as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually wonder, maybe I'll sneak in that question here before we continue, but I was actually wondering what your stance is on those take-home design challenges and companies monetizing some of those take-home design challenges. Like, what is even happening? Why is that happening? Any thoughts on that? There are, of course, depending on company size, there are some malpractices from companies, of course, to get people to do unpaid work as part of the interview process, right? How can we avoid being exploited, I guess, from the student perspective if we're submitting those design challenges? Because often we are on the NDA, right? Like when we're doing that. So.
Yeah. That's right. I think there are a couple major red flags that you can notice when they send you that design challenge brief. The first one is that if that challenge is highly related to the product or is a part of the product. So it's just like one of the major red flags, honestly. Secondly, is that they ask you to complete a crazy amount of work within a short period of time. No. And the third one is that you can actually Google it, Reddit and a lot of different blinds platforms to discuss this company's design challenges and to see if this company is legit. I know some big tech companies, they still use design challenges. For example, like Google, they hire design interns. They ask interns, applicants to complete some sort of design challenges. But those challenges are usually very high level creative. Like, for example, like designing an elevator system for Chinese people, whatever, something like this. It's crazy because you need to skip all the falls on the elevator panel. This is just one of the examples anyway. So yeah, I would say that just try to understand the design briefs and see what happened with it, and this just to try to not get used in those design challenges. And I'm going to be honest with you, if a company asked me to do design challenges, I would just say no. And I would suggest to turn it to a whiteboard design challenge. I did that a couple times during the past interview process, personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to ask.
I think it's great once you're at the stage where you can do that. Now, of course, some students coming straight out of university might not feel they have that luxury to turn down some of these. So I do think it's good to give people a little bit of guidance and say, okay, listen, maybe investigate the challenge first and
Yes.
see. I really like this. If it's too focused on a specific product, then like really listen. Yeah, I think that's really applicable. Now, we had another question about the impact that AI has had on user experience designers and the field as a whole. What impact do you think it had? in recent years. We should get probably Kim in here or somebody that does like AI all the time. But like, what do you think, like from your experience perspective, like has it had a big impact on the things that you see?
I love AI. I'm going to be very, very honest with you. I use it at work.
Yeah.
Like different types of AIs. For example, we use some AI tools to summarize our meeting minutes and so on. This kind of like tools that we use at work. And I guess like moving forward, user experience design is going to be very funny because with automation and with the great generation power of AI tools, for example, a lot of image tools, design systems, visual design elements are going to be automated, created by AIs to properly in the future. And if you really wanted to stay that competitive edge, you need to focus on product thinking mindset and the research skills and all the things that cannot be replaced by a machine. This is my take. So, what are your thoughts?
I think you're right. There's certain tasks, and I mean, this is a discussion that we have in class as well. And so I'm maybe bringing this back to the students because I've seen some students using AI in their assignments, and I think it still has a stigma that they kind of feel they can't disclose it, even though I do encourage everyone to disclose it to me right away. But I think you can all say that you've, at least to some degree, as part of your brainstorming, probably used some form of AI in your assignments, right? And I can see that because I also use it every day. And all I want, and I think what we need to advocate for, is that students don't feel bad about that anymore. I think it's just the stigma that it still has, that they feel like they're cheating, but you're not cheating, you're just using a new tool. So all I want from my students is that they declare to me how they're using that tool, because I want to help them use that tool better. And I want to understand how they're using it to also give advice on if they're using it correctly. Not that there's a correct way, but if they're using it in the most efficient way, let's say, because there's also lots of mistakes, as you know, that you can make. But some tools are super, like I can't even think about doing a Zoom call without the automated analysis at the end, where you literally just click, you will get an email after, this is what you talked about. Amazing.
Yeah.
I wish we've had that years ago. But then other tools like a Framer and Wizard, right? Like some tools that completely automate design prototyping. I don't know if anyone here in the class has tried Wizard or any prototyping tools where literally you can text describe how you want your website to look like, and it will generate the prototype for you. So I recommend you try that out. Not for the final assignment, but you can use it as inspiration, of course. It's called Wizard, UI-Zard, pretty much. So Wizard. Yeah, that's one of them. And then Framer also has an AI option that helps you build these AI-based prototypes. I think it's fantastic for like getting a first prototype out. But of course, it's not as fast as paper prototyping, and I always encourage just first paper prototype is just so much quicker to think through some things, and you're so less attached to it, so you can cross it out and move it away. But then I do think it is quite empowering to be able to quickly build these things, where before that you have to do it in Figma. And even though Figma makes everything really quick, there's still, a level of knowledge that's required to actually get up to speed. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. You cannot beat AI, so you just need to live with AI. And the person, I think I read a quote a few days ago saying that people who use AI will beat you. It's not UI is beating you. It's the person
Yeah,
who can leverage AI. They will eventually beat you out of the market.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question here. For personal project, student case project studies, how do you quantify impact in an interview when the product you design are usually fictional? So this is interesting, specifically for student projects when it's fictional products, right? It's not actually real products. So how do you quantify impact in an interview then?
Yeah. When business impact's not available, try to focus on usability metrics. So it means that, in usability tests, you're going to gather those metrics. For example, the task success rate, time on task, and users satisfaction score, and so on. So these are some very good metrics you can use to show that your UX work is fantastic and approved by users. And other than that, you can also share some quotes in the user interviews or usability testings to show that, the users love the design that you work on. So yeah, usability metrics is going to be your best friend if you don't have business metrics.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up from what I can see anyways. I know LinkedIn is sometimes a little bit slow in terms of updating the questions, but I think that is it what I can see here. Some people are sharing helpful AI prompts. Awesome. Okay, so that all being said, are there any other questions left in the audience before we go off into our well-deserved break? Well, thank you, Janus. That was a really, really great overview. I think really helpful for everyone that's kind of working on preparing for interviews and finishing their studies, leaving undergrad and the university behind and going on to the job market. And thank you for leaving your information here so anyone can reach out to you. I hope that that's okay with any more questions, right?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any follow-up questions, or if you want to discuss your personal scenario, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever you want.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead again.